share something that I was able to put together for a leadership team meeting at our church in the past week. The idea is that we are to press on while we're being pressed on. And I think I've heard numerous times, even in the past few weeks, how difficult this season has been for a lot of people. The past 6 to 7 months have been a time of loss, of isolation, of distancing, not just social distancing from other people, but also feeling a distance from God. I know early on in the pandemic, people expected this to be a time to turn back to God and their hearts would be revived. And recent studies from the Barna Group have suggested that people are not feeling closer to God. They're feeling actually more distant. This is a concept perhaps that aligns with the dark night of the soul, a phrase that goes back to St. John of the Cross, but has been picked up by many authors since then. And the basic idea is that God may not feel near. We may have these times of what are called desolation or emptiness or loneliness. And it's in these times where God is actually doing a great work of growth in us, where he's calling us to pray harder, to seek with more earnestness, to trust, even though we don't get the good feelings that go with it. And that is the dark night of the soul. Doesn't mean he's not there. It just means that we're groping in the darkness. And when we come out on the other side, we come out as stronger believers. This idea of a dark night, or the language I'm using of pressing on when being pressed on, is something that we see in the life of Jesus. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share a screen that shows us some thoughts and some scriptures and quotes that I passed along to our leadership team earlier this week. So here we go. Pressing on while being pressed on, understanding the dark night of the soul. I think it's important to note that Jesus was pressed. We see this most clearly in the Garden of Gethsemane, which would have been an olive grove, probably with an olive press close by. In fact, the term Gethsemane combines two words, Hebrew or Aramaic words that mean olive press. And we see Jesus right before he's arrested, then put on trial, and then dies for us on the cross, taking a few of his disciples aside and saying to these disciples, pray with me while I go over there. And so he takes Peter and James and John, and he says to them that he was sorrowful and troubled. At least that's what Matthew tells us, but then he repeats this. He goes, my soul is very sorrowful, even to death, so remain here and watch with me. It says, going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. So Jesus here in Gethsemane is being pressed. He's facing something he doesn't necessarily want to face. He's crying out to his Abba Father. That's great that he has that personal name and that personal connection with God, but we know within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, he's going to cry out, my God, why have you forsaken me? So Jesus knows what it's like to feel pressed. The Apostle Paul felt something similar in his life. He didn't spend time in an olive grove. He actually spent time in prisons in various locations under house arrest in Rome. And he writes this letter, Philippians, from house arrest. At the opening of this book, he says, it's been kind of trying for me because people are now preaching the gospel and flaunting their freedoms, trying to make me feel pressed. In chapter 1, verse 20 through 26, he talks about being perhaps on the verge of death, but to live as Christ and to die as gain. He says, I'm okay with dying, but I know that I might have to keep living, so God gives me opportunities to minister and serve you. And so here Paul's being pressed. But in chapter 3, he says, I'm going to press on. He says, I want to know Jesus and the power of his resurrection. Well, of course, we all want to know that. That's the victory. That's the triumph. That's the overcoming all odds. That's the I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I might know the power of his resurrection and I may share in his sufferings, becoming like him in death. So the Apostle Paul wants to share in Jesus' sufferings. Jesus was someone who was pressed on. That I might attain the resurrection from the dead, Paul says, not that I've already obtained it or I'm already perfect, but I press on to make it my own because Jesus Christ has made me his own. You can see the rest of the verse there, and he says he presses on again. And here's the important note. When you are being pressed on, you're still called to press on. This is modeled in Jesus, who for the joy set before him bore the cross for our sins. Or for Paul, even though there was a death sentence hanging over his head, he pressed on because he wanted to become more like Jesus and share in his suffering. So when we're pressed on, we press on. Being pressed on is a dark night of the soul. Being pressed on is suffering. Being pressed on is facing trials and tribulations, knowing that God's going to work something good out of it, even if we don't like that moment or season of trial. John Piper says this at the end of his book, Desiring God. He has an entire chapter on how we experience Christian joy in suffering. And he says this: the deep things of life and God are discovered in suffering. So it was with Jesus himself. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered. Jesus pressed on while being pressed. The Apostle Paul pressed on while being pressed on. And we too, in our dark nights and our tough seasons and our trials, our sufferings, our tribulations, are to press on. Brennan talks about this. Here's an author who understands the grace of God with such depth because he's lived literally in the gutter, waking up there after a drunken spell. And he understands something of being pressed on. He says, in this dark night, God allows us to live by faith and faith alone. Mature faith cannot grow when we are surfeited with all kinds of spiritual comforts and consolations. All these must be removed if we are to advance in the pure trust of God. The Lord withdraws tangible supports to purify our hearts, to discern if we are in love with the gifts of the giver or the giver of the gifts. And that's a fine distinction. So Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, I don't want this, take this from me, but Father, your will be done, not mine. Meanwhile, his disciples, his support system, are sleeping. Jesus was pressed on, but he pressed on. The Apostle Paul talks about how people deserted him, but Jesus stood by him. 2 Timothy chapter 4. And in the dark night, Jesus is enough. God the Father is enough. Even if he doesn't give us his comforts, his peace, good feelings, assurance, we continue to pray, we continue to trust, we continue to hope. Now, this idea of the dark night of the soul combines two different things, and these are kind of big fancy words, and one of them is listed here. The word is consolations. It could also mean comfort. It could also mean gift. It could also mean blessing. But these people who have studied and experienced the dark night of the soul understand that life has consolation and comforts, and God gives us these things as gifts. And when we receive them, we should be thankful, and they come in a variety of forms. Our family, our friends, our church. And when we have good relationships with them, meaningful bonds with them, it's a consolation, it's a comfort. And God gives these to us, and they help us grow, and we're thankful. Physical health. Sometimes you don't even notice your body because every single joint and ligament and internal organ is functioning well. It's when the heart starts beating out of your chest. It's when that knee just screams in pain when you bend it that you realize, oh, my body's not a comfort anymore. Financial security. You're not worried about debt. You're not worried about upcoming bills. You have money to go on vacation, to buy people gifts and be generous. That's a consolation and a comfort. It's a gift from God. Career satisfaction is another one. God gives us career satisfaction, vocation, purpose, opportunity to serve and use our gifts and make money and make a difference. That's a consolation and a comfort. mental and emotional health, the ability to think clearly, not be overwhelmed by life's struggles and life's trials, to be able to lay your head down at night and sleep, not wake up in the middle of the night with a panic. These are consolations and they're comforts, and they're given to us by God as gifts. And we all experience them, and sometimes we take them for granted, and the Christian life is filled with these consolations and comforts. But sometimes God removes these consolations and comforts, and we enter the dark night of the soul, and it's called a phase of desolation. We might call it suffering or a trial. And I've heard so many stories recently of these moments of desolation. Dysfunction, friction, isolation with family and friends. You don't agree with your friends on when and how to wear masks. You haven't seen extended family in months because of COVID-19. You've lost a loved one. This is a period of desolation and suffering. God is not absent, but he's removed some of his comforts. Pain, illness, disease, he doesn't stop that joint from throbbing. He doesn't just click a switch or flip a switch and all of a sudden your bowels are in a better spot. He doesn't calm that erratic beat of your heart, but you notice that it's really working hard. And this is a time to pray and to cry out and to seek counsel from doctors, but they may not have the answers or consensus. And so you're in this period of desolation and suffering. Your finances aren't as clean and slick as you thought they would be this year because you lost chunks of time at work. Maybe someone stole money from you online, and that loss makes you feeling naked and vulnerable, threatened, and all of a sudden your financial security is not there. Job loss or joyless employment. Ever since changes, working from home, you just don't enjoy your job anymore because it's just you in your pajama pants in front of a screen. You used to have good interactions with your coworkers, and now you're just there, clocking in and clocking out. Or you've been unemployed and you feel purposeless. These are periods of desolation, of suffering, of trials. God is not absent, but he uses these times to increase your trust on him. You cry out for greater meaning in work, opportunities for new employment, or mental health being challenged. Of course, this is one of the headlines we've read over and over in the past 6.5 to 7 months. People are feeling vulnerable. People are feeling unsafe. People are feeling desperately anxious, depressed. Suicide rates are up. Alcoholism is up because there is this increase in mental instability. This is a phase of desolation, a phase of suffering. It doesn't mean that God is absent. It means in this phase, he's stripped away the comforts and the consolations and says, rely on me alone. The challenge with the dark night, with desolation, with suffering, is we never know how long it's going to end. And so the Psalms give us this language, how long, O Lord, how long, O Lord? But the Psalms also teach us this resolve at the end. I trust you. So we press on when we're being pressed on. Again, Brennan Manning noted this, and he noted that no matter what God is allowing or directly giving to you as a comfort or consolation or withholding from you in your period of desolation, he's good, he's merciful, he's present, he's all-knowing, he's compassionate, and he uses these dark nights to draw us closer to him. Manning says, today it appears that God is calling many ordinary Christians into rhythms of loss and gain. It is a comfort to know that this is a path that many have tracked before us. Jesus, Paul, John of the Cross, Mother Teresa, Brennan Manning, people in your church, you. Moreover, it is reassuring to learn that the longed for growth in faith is not far away. God's love and mercy have not abandoned us. God's mercy never fails. The Christian who surrenders and trusts to this truth finds Jesus Christ in a new way. It marks the beginning of a deeper life of faith, where joy and peace flourish even in the darkness because they are rooted not in superficial human feelings, but deep down in the dark certainty of faith that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I want you to know that this Jesus was pressed on, but he pressed on and set for us a precedent in how to face the dark night of the soul. And the Apostle Paul was pressed on, but he pressed on and set a precedent for us on how to face the dark night of the soul. We are in dark times, hard times, times of suffering and loss. It doesn't mean there's no comforts, and some people are doing just fine. They're in a phase of consolation. But if you are in a phase of desolation, of suffering, of trials, I pray for you that you press on. I pray for you that you fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of your faith. I promise you, he is near. And his nearness isn't proven in the fact that you feel it. That's a consolation. His nearness is proven in what the scriptures say about him and what he says himself in the scriptures, which is this. Listen closely. Lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Press on, reach out, trust that Jesus is near, especially if you're in a dark night right now.